The air in the country club's grand ballroom was thick with the scent of cinnamon and pine. A curated winter wonderland crafted for the elite of Boston. Fairy lights twinkled around marble columns. Tables gleamed with silk linens. And a string quartet hummed softly beneath the clinking of crystal glasses. This was no ordinary evening. It was the 40th anniversary celebration of Victor and Evelyn Caldwell. A power couple whose wealth and influence cast a long shadow over the city's high society. For Sarah Bennett, stepping into this world felt like crossing a threshold into a kingdom where she was an outsider. Tolerated but never truly welcomed. Sarah clutched her 8-year-old daughter Lily's hand, feeling the chill of the girl's fingers through her delicate lace gloves. Lily's hazel eyes darted nervously toward the front of the room, where Victor held court, his booming laugh commanding a circle of impeccably dressed businessmen. "Mom, do I have to stay near Grandpa?" Lily whispered, her voice barely audible over the murmur of the crowd. Sarah knelt briefly, smoothing the velvet bow on Lily's dress, forcing a smile that felt brittle even to her. "Just smile, sweetheart," she murmured. "We'll be in and out. You'll be fine." But the words tasted hollow, meant as much to reassure herself as her daughter. Sarah's husband, Nathan, was already inside, a whiskey glass in hand, blending seamlessly into this world of old money and legacy. He didn't glance their way as they entered, his attention fixed on a group of investors, his charm dialed to perfection. Sarah told herself he hadn't seen them, but the truth gnawed at her. He always saw his parents first. Always their world, never hers or Lily's. The evening dragged on with speeches and toasts, each one a reminder of the Caldwell's untouchable status. Evelyn, adorned in understated diamonds, cast Sarah a glance that was half pity, half disdain. Her lips pursed as if Sarah's presence were a minor inconvenience. Sarah sat rigid, her posture impeccable, trying to ignore the weight of 100 judgmental eyes. Every time Lily fidgeted, Sarah's heart tightened, her instincts screaming to flee this gilded cage. Then, in a heartbeat, everything shattered. Lily, restless and overwhelmed in the formal setting, reached for her water glass. Her sleeve caught the rim, and ice water spilled across the table, splashing onto Victor's pristine charcoal suit. The room fell silent, the clink of glass echoing like a gunshot. Sarah's breath caught as she reached for Lily. But before she could act, Victor's hand lashed out, striking Lily's cheek with a crack that silenced the quartet. "You little trash," he roared, his face flushed with rage, veins bulging in his neck. "Get out of my sight. Both of you." Lily's hand flew to her cheek, her eyes welling with tears as she clung to Sarah's arm. The word, trash, hung in the air, sharp and venomous, branding them both. Whispers erupted around them, a wildfire of judgment. "I always knew she didn't belong. No class at all." Sarah's ears rang, her body frozen in shock, her mind struggling to process the sight of her daughter's trembling lips. She opened her mouth to speak, to defend Lily, but no words came. Nathan appeared, but not at her side. He stood by Victor, his hand on his father's shoulder, his voice cutting through the haze. "Not for Lily. Not for Sarah, but for her to leave. You don't belong here, Sarah," he said, his tone sharp and final. "Take her and go." The words sliced through her, each one a betrayal deeper than the last. Her husband, the man who'd vowed to stand by her, had chosen his family's pride over their daughter's pain. Sarah gathered Lily, her movements mechanical, her heart pounding so loudly it drowned out the murmurs. Evelyn remained seated, her eyes fixed on the table, as if ignoring the scene could erase it. Sarah felt every stare, every whispered barb, as she guided Lily through the ballroom. The long hallway, lined with oil portraits of the Caldwell lineage, seemed to stretch endlessly. The Boston winter hit her like a second slap as they stepped outside, the cold biting at her face. Lily's sobs were muffled against Sarah's coat as they hurried across the icy pavement to the car. Sarah's hands shook as she fumbled with the keys, her breath clouding the air. She buckled Lily into the back seat, the girl's tear-streaked face pressed against her stuffed bunny, a worn toy she'd clung to all evening. Sarah didn't cry, not yet. Her humiliation was too raw, her shock too deep. That word, trash, echoed in her mind, A cruel label slapped onto her child by a man who wielded power like a weapon. And Nathan had let it happen. Back at their small apartment, the silence was oppressive, broken only by the faint creak of old window frames fighting the cold. Sarah carried Lily to bed, tucking the blanket around her small frame, kissing her damp forehead. The pink mark on Lily's cheek was still visible. A silent accusation. Sarah's phone buzzed relentlessly in her coat pocket. 59 missed calls by the time she checked. Nathan, Victor, Evelyn, even the Caldwell Mansion's landline. She stared at the screen, her chest tightening, a bitter taste rising in her throat. Against her better judgment, she played the first voicemail. Nathan's voice was clipped, almost rehearsed. Sarah, pick up. Dad says this can be fixed. But only if you come back tonight. Don't make this worse. Fixed? The word was an insult. As if a slap across an 8-year-old's face could be smoothed over with a conversation. Evelyn's message followed, her tone syrupy but laced with venom. Sarah, you embarrassed us tonight. If you don't want things to get worse for you, answer your husband's calls. We can help you, but only if you act like part of this family. The implication was clear. Sarah was the problem. Not Victor's violence. Not Nathan's betrayal. Sarah's hand trembled as she deleted each voicemail. One by one, refusing to let their voices burrow deeper into her mind. She paced the kitchen, the linoleum creaking under her feet. Her anger burning hotter with every step. They thought they could humiliate her, brand her daughter as trash, and then demand she crawl back for more. Not this time. She sat at the kitchen table, the cheap light fixture casting harsh shadows, and opened her laptop. The screen's glow cut through the dark as her fingers hovered over the keys. If they want to fight, she whispered, her voice steady for the first time all night, they'll get one. The apartment was still, save for the ticking of the kitchen clock and Lily's soft breathing from down the hall. Sarah's humiliation wasn't just a wound anymore, it was fuel. She'd spent years swallowing their insults, their condescension, their subtle reminders that she'd never be one of them. But tonight, they'd crossed a line. They'd touched her daughter. And Sarah Bennett was done playing their game. Sarah Bennett sat at her kitchen table, the dim glow of her laptop cutting through the darkness of her modest Boston apartment. The clock ticked relentlessly, each second a reminder of the storm that had erupted at the Caldwell's anniversary party. Her daughter, Lily, slept down the hall, her small frame curled around her stuffed bunny, the faint pink mark on her cheek a cruel reminder of Victor Caldwell's hand. Sarah's fingers trembled as she opened a folder on her desktop labeled, Caldwell Files. For years, she'd collected fragments of their world, screenshots, emails, documents, without fully knowing why. Now, she understood. Those fragments were her arsenal. And she was ready to wage war. The memory of Victor's voice calling Lily, trash, burned in her mind. But it was Nathan's betrayal, his cold command to leave, that cut deeper. Sarah's phone lay silent now. The 59 missed calls from the Caldwells deleted. Their voicemails erased like a declaration of independence. But the fight was far from over. She needed a plan. And she needed it fast. Her first call was to Michael, a paralegal and old friend who'd seen enough of the Caldwells to know their polished exterior hid a rotten core. His voice crackled through the phone, steady but laced with concern. Sarah, what's going on? She didn't hold back. Victor hit Lily at their anniversary party. In front of everyone, he called her trash. And Nathan told us to leave like we were the problem. The words spilled out, raw and unfiltered. Michael's silence was heavy, followed by a sharp intake of breath. Sarah, that's not just a family spat. That's child abuse. A public assault. You've got witnesses, dozens of them. You need to document everything. Every call, every message, every detail. If this goes to court, you want it airtight. I've been documenting for years. Sarah admitted, her voice low. She glanced at the laptop screen, where files were meticulously organized. Emails where Victor berated employees with venom. Photos of Nathan standing beside her at events but looking like a stranger. And financial documents that hinted at the Caldwells' less than legal dealings. Michael's tone sharpened. Then it's time to use it. But be careful, Sarah. People like Victor don't play fair. They'll come for you. Let them try, she said, the words slipping out with a defiance she hadn't known she possessed. They hung up after mapping out next steps. Save every voicemail. Gather witness names. And dig deeper into the Caldwell empire. Sarah's eyes fell on a file she'd almost forgotten, a property deed from years ago. Her heart skipped as she opened it, scanning the text. The Caldwell mansion, their fortress of wealth, was legally in her name. Victor had transferred it during one of his legal battles, likely to shield assets, never expecting Sarah to notice. She stared at the document, a slow smile curling her lips. He'd underestimated her, and that would be his downfall. The next morning, Sarah drove to the Caldwell mansion, her resolve like steel despite the knot in her stomach. The stone facade loomed like a cathedral of power, its grandeur designed to intimidate. Nathan opened the door before she could knock, his face a mask of guarded neutrality. You shouldn't be here, he said, blocking the entryway. Sarah pushed past him, her heels clicking on the marble floor. Too bad. Inside, the air smelled of polished wood and old money. Evelyn stood in the foyer, hands clasped, her expression a calculated blend of concern and superiority. Victor lounged by the fireplace, a glass of brandy in hand, his arrogance unshaken. You've got some nerve, he said, his voice dripping with disdain. Sarah didn't flinch. I'm here because you hit my daughter in front of a room full of people. You humiliated her, called her trash. You think I'll let that go? Victor laughed, a slow, mocking sound that made her skin crawl. Go ahead, sue me. No court will believe a woman like you over me. The phrase, a woman like you, landed like a slap. But Sarah held her ground. Nathan stepped forward, his voice sharp. Sarah, you're being dramatic. You're blowing this out of proportion. Dad didn't mean it. She turned to him, stunned. She's 8. Nathan, your father slapped our 8-year-old. And you're defending him? Evelyn shifted uncomfortably but said nothing, her silence a betrayal of its own. Victor leaned back, his eyes glinting. That little trash needs to learn respect. And so do you. Sarah's blood boiled, but she locked his words into memory. Every syllable a piece of evidence. This is your last chance to apologize, she said, her voice steady. Otherwise, you'll hear from my lawyer. Victor's laugh echoed as she turned to leave. Nathan's muttered, you're unstable, trailing after her like a final insult. She didn't look back, the cold air hitting her as she stepped into the driveway. Nathan grabbed her arm, his grip bruising. If you try to ruin my family, you'll regret it. Sarah met his gaze, unflinching, and pulled free. She drove away, her hands steady on the wheel, her fear replaced by a burning resolve. Back home, Sarah's world tilted again. An envelope waited on her kitchen table, delivered by a man in a suit who'd uttered 2 chilling words. You've been served. Inside was an emergency custody petition from Nathan and Victor, claiming Sarah was mentally unfit and a danger to Lily. Her stomach churned as she read the lies, fabricated claims of instability, reckless behavior. Then her phone buzzed with notifications. Social media was ablaze with doctored screenshots and photos, painting her as unhinged, a liability. Comments from strangers stung like knives. Poor Nathan. Stuck with her. She's always been off. Victor's reach had turned her into a public pariah. Sarah called Jessica Reed, a reporter known for exposing the untouchable. They met at a downtown coffee shop, the air thick with the scent of burnt espresso. Jessica's sharp eyes and no-nonsense demeanor put Sarah at ease. She laid it all out, the slap, the threats, the custody petition, the years of collected evidence. She played Victor's voicemail, his voice snarling, trash, like a weapon. Jessica scribbled furiously, her expression unreadable. You're not the first to come to me about Victor, she said. His company's been under scrutiny, zoning scams, backroom deals. But this is personal. It's the missing piece. Sarah's heart raced. She wasn't just a scorned in-law. She was holding the key to dismantling an empire. Jessica outlined a plan. Sarah would gather every document, every voicemail, while Jessica connected her with a lawyer to shield her from the Caldwell's legal threats. Sarah drove to City Hall, her tote bag soon overflowing with public records, property transfers, zoning approvals, quiet settlements. all tied to Victor's name. The deed to the mansion was her trump card, proof of his arrogance and carelessness. By mid-afternoon, she sat in her car, staring at the papers, a strange calm settling over her. Victor had built his empire on intimidation, but she'd found its cracks. That night, Jessica's exposé went live, a bombshell that lit up every major news outlet in Massachusetts. By sunrise, it was national. Headlines screamed of corruption, fraud, and a shocking account of Victor Caldwell striking his 8-year-old granddaughter at a public event. Federal agents stormed Caldwell Development Group's headquarters, their dark jackets stark against the glass facade. Sarah watched it unfold on her kitchen TV, the hum of the refrigerator and Lily's soft breathing the only sounds in the apartment. Jessica's voice cut through the broadcast. Documents from an anonymous insider reveal extensive misconduct, including tax evasion and intimidation tactics against family members. Sarah's phone buzzed. Nathan. Then Victor. Their voicemails a mix of panic and rage. Nathan pleaded. Sarah, this is out of control. We can fix this. Victor snarled. You think you've won? You've got no idea what you've started. But their voices held no power anymore. Only desperation. Lily padded into the kitchen, rubbing her eyes, clutching her bunny. Mommy, why are you watching the news? Sarah crouched down, brushing back her daughter's hair. Because the truth matters, baby, and now everyone knows it. She set the bunny on the counter. Its frayed ears a testament to their survival. This house is ours now, she said softly. No one can take that from us. By noon, Jessica called. You did it, Sarah. The FBI's seizing records. Victor's finished. Sarah didn't feel triumph, only relief, like a weight lifting from her chest. That afternoon, Nathan showed up, his suit rumpled, his composure shattered. We can put our family back together, he pleaded. Sarah stood firm in her doorway. You watched your father hit our daughter and told me to leave. That's the family you're talking about. He flinched but had no reply. She closed the door, the finality of it echoing in her bones. By evening, the phone stopped ringing. The storm that had defined Sarah's life for years had broken, not because she'd endured it silently, but because she'd fought back. She sat at the kitchen table, Lily coloring across from her, the stuffed bunny between them like a quiet witness. For the first time in years, the silence felt like peace.